Hey there, Jethro with you. Front suspension work, day number 1. This is recorded on April 24th of 2005. On April 24th, I found some Mustang 2 independent front suspension components at a big swap meet at the UMB Bank Pavilion here in St. Louis. This was my first swap meet ever, and what an eye-opener. I have the impression that swap meets are over-glorified junkyards, as there was a lot of non-car related stuff being peddled out there. It took me about 2 hours to walk the whole thing, but I walked the entire site twice. Scott was there to help me score the IFS parts. Having looked at websites where complete front ends are running about $2,500, I am feeling pretty good about finding the rest of the parts I need for this IFS and getting it mocked up with the stock Mustang 2 crossmember. Another guy at work, Eddie Jones, has a Mustang 2 crossmember, and he's going to give it to me. Scotty came through with another book on setting up one of these crossmembers, and I think I have the skills necessary to do this. It looks like it'll be pretty tricky with the hacking into the frame and such, but again, I think this will work. Front suspension work, day number 2. This is logged on June 12th of 2005. I started taking apart the front Mustang 2 IFS crossmember I got from Eddie Jones on Friday. I got this all cleaned up with the pressure washer and then a wire brush. Cutting away the parts of the frame within the crossmember turned out really nice by using a grinder. I felt I had good control over what material I wanted to remove and what I wanted to stay by using the sidewinder with a cutting blade. I need to get some 3/8 inch or half-inch plate to reinforce the frame close to where the IFS crossmember will go. Here you can see the template I made out of some cardboard to go to the steel market to buy some material. The lack of contrast between the color of the cardboard and the rust color in the frame required that I graphically add some red around the cardboard to illustrate where this thing was located within the web of the frame channel. Front suspension work, day number 3. This is recorded on June the 15th of 2005. I did some preliminary measurements on the front suspension. With the frame at ride height, it appears that the front crossmember will only be about 7 inches off the ground. This is okay, as the differential only has 7 inches of ground clearance. The shock towers of the front IFS crossmember appear to make it up about halfway into the frame. This was based on the ride height with the swing arm at that level. I'm going to take the extra time involved to cut out half the height of the old frame to mock up things in this manner. If the crossmember works out with the weight applied to where it has to go higher up in the frame to lower the front end, I will be able to do that without overcutting the original frame material. I had some half-inch plate from some snowplow blades from work to use for lateral reinforcement at the front part of the frame for the crossmember. I have things worked out to meet with Feist at 9 a.m. Saturday morning to finish cutting these out from the pattern I made the other day out of cardboard. Front suspension work, day number 4. This is logged on June 19th of 2005. I got my half-inch plate cut at Feist's with his plasma cutter. I knew his machine was rated to cut up to half-inch, but he hadn't tried it on that thick of material yet. It worked fine, and I got the pieces cut accordingly. Danny came along and played in Feist's backyard patio while we created tons of sparks by Feist's garage. From the preliminary measurements I took on the front suspension, I cut halfway up into the frame channels after fitting the tack and tack welding the half-inch plate. I had to bend the plate in order to keep it in the web of the channel of the old frame. I notched out the bottom of the old frame and cut with a cutting wheel on a grinder, and I fit the crossmember up into them. I am now committed to using the stock crossmember due to the cuts in the old frame channel. At this stock ride height, an A-arm will not have room to bolt on properly nor swing freely with respect to the frame rail. I will cut the rest of the frame to raise the height of the crossmember to get this necessary clearance. That should develop about 3 inches of rake in the chassis, assuming the stock springs work out on the level swing arms after motor weight is applied. From this point, I'll mock things up to see how the wheels will work inside the fender wells for turning and vertical clearance concerns. Front suspension work, day number 5. This is dated June 20th of 2005. I cut the rest of the side notches through the frame and reset the height in the front crossmember. I'm now about at 2 inches of rake in my rough calculations on ride height. You can see here the notching that I need to accomplish in the old frame for the upper A-arms to clear the frame. This will need to be done before I can mock up the front end. I rechecked the input pinion angle on the rear end. It is now at about 4 degrees at calculated ride height. Schmitty has access to a set of scales. I would like to weigh the old 36 to calculate and order my rear springs. Top height is 13 inches and the ride height is 10 inches. With the weight from the old truck, I would have enough information in order to correct springs I need. I plan to take out of this the parasitic weight of the rear end itself to further nail the proper weight of the rear to the new truck onto the springs. I think it is time to order the front axle brake kit and set everything up with GM rotors. Then it will be time to start on the drivetrain by resetting the cab, bolting the motor and tranny together and hanging them around the chassis to start designing or ordering the engine mounts to mock up the motor assembly. It is hard to believe that I need to do all this before I can start solid welding all the components I've mocked up on the frame thus far. I am getting antsy to get this done so I can paint the frame and relax before getting to the sheet metal work. I'm even thinking of mocking up the sheet metal before the frame weld day to make sure that all the body components are lining up properly. Phew, this is starting to get labor intensive. Front suspension work, day number 6. This is dated June 21st of 2005. I notched out the frame and reset the crossmember. I'm not happy with the fit and it looks like the crossmember will have to go higher to get the clearance I need. Most everything is fine, but I'm forced to take the outermost portion of the upper A-arm adjustment in the current configuration. That just won't do. I will cut into the crossmember and try bringing the height up over the height another inch. This will give me 3 inches of rake from the frame ride height. I might be able to live with this, assuming the stock springs that I have for the V8 Mustang. They look pretty stout, so I may have some rake taken out of the frame if these springs press the lower swing arms down below their level point after the motor and body weight is applied. This is getting kind of tricky. Front suspension work, day number 7. This is recorded June 27th of 2005. At 3 inches of rake on the ride height, the rear end was exactly at 3 degrees of pinion angle. Since the front end had to be at this height for the A-arms to pivot clearly over the frame rails, I triple-checked all of my measurements and set to welding the front crossmember up. I got the driver's side done. The passenger side has some metal pieces fabbed for the top of it, and it's solid on the top of the frame rail. But I have to get all the lower welds done. I'm getting close to getting on to the engine and transmission mock-up work. Front suspension work, day number 8. This is recorded December 24th of 2005. Back in around mid-November, I painted the frame and I have been battling cold weather to paint some of the suspension parts. The weather was warm enough yesterday to finish this painting. Today, Danny and I had time to burn while Mommy did some shopping, so we bolted on the front suspension to the frame together. Front suspension work, day number 9. This is recorded on March 12th of 2006. I eked out enough time to go down to the shop and get the front suspension on. I am now ready to get onto the motor work for the truck. I'm not going to worry about alignment issues until I get a lot of the body and mechanical components installed. At least now I have a rolling chassis to start mocking mechanical and body components up.